Good morning and welcome back to Miniature Monday here on Gaming with ADHD, where today we're going to be taking a look at yet another gang for Cyberpunk Red Combat Zone from Monster Fight Club and our Talsorian games. Today we're going to look at the Generation Red gang starter. So this is going to give you all of the models that you're going to need to start playing the game, plus objective cards, mission cards, equipment cards, pretty much everything that you would need out of the box except for dice, tokens, and all that kind of stuff that comes out of the starter set. But if you've got a buddy that already has the starter, this is a great way to get in the game if this is the faction that you want to play. Now, before we get started, do make sure that you are subscribed to the channel. I try to put out a few videos each week. We do, live painting streams, reviews of role-playing games, miniatures games, anything in between. And we'd love for you to come along and see what we have to share. So make sure you do that. In addition, we do have links down below to our social media on Facebook, Twitter, where we'll generally post when new videos go live. And honestly, we'd just love for you to come along and see what we have to share. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and start looking at the different models. Now, you are going to get 8 total models. You're going to get 6 gang members and 2 robotic drone type figures, and we'll look at them all one by one. We'll give you some 360 turnarounds. And so this is our first one. This is Apex. This is the Generation Red leader. So every gang has to have a leader, somebody in charge, and in this case it's Apex. So this basically, it's a 2-part model. You're going to add the head and to the body. That's pretty much all you have to do. I like the gas mask look. All of these are a little bit on the smaller side because they do represent like teenagers, teenage kind of characters. That's why you do see things like the backpack here. They have a bunch of little details. You can see all the zippers. You've got that little star patch on there. So it definitely looks like a kind of a street kid. Especially the way that they've done it. I think it's kind of cool because you could paint it up as either a boy or a girl. The backpack, the patch, nothing necessarily screams one direction or the other. So I actually think that is kind of cool. But overall, the detail's pretty good. Not too much mold lines, although they are there. You can see them. But for all intents and purposes, it's not too bad. I admit that I am bad about cleaning up mold lines, things like that. But overall, this one isn't too bad. So this is Apex, the Generation Red leader. All right, next up we've got Blades. Now, this is just a generic gang member, but I like what they did here. She's got these kind of weird rollerblade, monowheel skate things or something attached to her boots, which actually even translates into her skill on her character card. Basically, if nobody can see her, she can move extra on her turn. So she gets a farther movement because of it. But overall, I like how the model was done. It is done in, I believe, 3 pieces. The 2 arms and the body. But otherwise, it went together fairly well. It does have some posing issues because you only have one attach point to the base. So I think that's one reason that my model's leaning a little bit. But I wasn't too worried about it because she's skating. You're going to be leaning, as you go. So I don't think that's as big a problem. I also put her further forward on the base because of the sword leaning back. I wanted to try and keep as much of the model on top of the base as possible. So luckily she doesn't overhang very much, but she does have some good details. She's got the cat ears, looks like some cybernetic eyes, things like that. So overall, it's a decent model. I like the little detail that they've got on the back of her hoodie, the little kind of foxtail. definitely implies something you'd see like a teenage girl doing. So, it's a good model, and I think this one will definitely be fun to paint up. So that is Blades. All right, next up we've got High Stick. Obviously, we've got a little bit more of a sport theme going on here. He's got rollerblades on his feet and the hockey stick, which actually does translate again into another skill for the character of Trick Shot, where he can treat all grenades as indirect attacks. Toss the grenade out, hit it with the stick, and go indirect. So I actually think that's kind of cool. I will have to read up more on the rules for indirect attacks and how those work. But otherwise, it's a good model. Now, it was a single piece, nothing really to assemble, but it looks good. It's got some posing to it, so it's not very static like you would see with like old Ralpartha miniatures. But it's it still looks like you would kind of expect a hockey player to look like. He's in a stance, he's ready for somebody to come at him or to take off on his own. And so in a miniatures game, you don't want your models very statuesque, and so I think this straddles that line very nicely, especially for a single piece model. But that is High Stick. All right, now we come to Izzy. Now, this is just another, gang member. Nothing particularly special in that regard, but she is clearly posing with some extra heavy firepower, with 2 auto pistols aimed upwards. I think is kind of interesting, kind of implying that she's targeting larger opponents than herself. But overall, it's still a fun model. When I assembled this one, this is another single piece model. So a lot of the Generation Red are just 1 or 2 pieces. In fact, most of the Cyberpunk miniatures are just a couple of pieces usually. But this one came out well. Not too bad as far as the mold lines are concerned. You can see one going down the side of the coat right there. But otherwise, it looks pretty good. Again, with the kids, we've got the backpacks going on just to kind of help bring that theme in together. But overall, I like the look of this one. I like the headphones and goggles that she's got going on. This one's a fun model, and for personal reasons, I'm really going to enjoy painting it up. The card shows her with black hair, but in my case, she's gonna be a blonde, but that's a separate issue. But yeah, it's a fun one, and I like Izzy. All right, next up we've got Tetra. Now, Tetra is obviously the heavy weapon specialist for the gang. I do like what they did here. The rocket launcher looks absolutely massive. It probably would not look as big against an adult model, but up against a teenager or a kid, preteen, whatever she is, it definitely fits in. Again, we've got the backpack with the zippers and all the extra little detailing. I'm actually really, as I'm going through these, I'm really liking the backpacks here. It's a simple kind of plain piece, but it adds a little bit of fun, and I like what they did there. So she's got the puffy jacket, some mold lines along the legs. Now there are 2 pieces for this. There's the rocket launcher and the body. The rocket launcher has the right arm and the left hand. But otherwise, the model went together just fine. Mold line is somewhat noticeable. As I've said in my other reviews, I'm not a big fan of trying to clean them up just because of the fact that the plastic is soft. But I will probably go through before I paint these up and see if I can clean up a little bit more. Just because some of the stuff is annoying. But overall, it's not too bad. Regardless, I like Tetra. I think it's a she. I think she looks cool, and it's gonna be fun to paint up just because you've got a kid with a rocket launcher. So that is Tetra. All right, now last up for the characters is Wheelie. Now, this is the Generation Red Specialist. This one was a bit of a pain to assemble. You have to put the kid on the bike and then the bike on the base and the right arm onto the figure and make... I just realized that I didn't set that in very well. This was the most frustrating out of this set. The bike doesn't really want to stand, making it kind of sit at an angle like you would have on a bike when you're stopped, and just kind of, holding it upright with your feet. I like the general idea. It doesn't look bad, but it was a bit of a pain to get it assembled right. As far as the detailing, I like the detail. The skull that he's got on the back of his vest, which then, if you look at the little kind of racing plate on the handlebars, he's got the matching skull there. This is actually a good example for why I hesitate to clean up the models. And if you look at, I believe it's the rear tire, I was just trying to clean some of the mold line off the tire, and I took a giant gouge out of it, because I was trying to just scrape along the edge. All it did was just bend it out of the way, and it didn't really clean it off. So that was kind of frustrating. But overall, it's not a bad model. I think especially for this particular faction, I think it fits in very well, and is a nice figure to have. Even despite all of the problems, it is the most frustrating, but it's definitely very thematic. So I like this one. But that is Wheelie. Now, there are 2 additional figures, and we're going to look at those right now. All right, the last models are these spider drones. And, okay, full disclosure, I haven't glued them to the bases, obviously. There's a couple reasons for that. If you notice, all of the other figures, they are on FDM printed, 3D printed bases. I like the sculpted look to them. But after I assembled all of the figures, I realized that they were actually a little bit smaller than the official bases. Now, what you see here are the official bases for Cyberpunk Red. However, this spider drone that's here in the front right now, he barely touches the outer edge of the base. And one of his feet or the little pointy bits that I'm calling feet, one of them isn't even on the base. For this second one, he's kind of leaning off. 2 of them on the same side don't fit on the base. So I like the models. The models look great, but you literally will have to model these bases in order to make the figures work. I want to put them on the same size bases as my other figures, but I'm trying to figure out, I need to find some plastic girders or something that will blend, because I have a very industrial look to all of my bases. But I don't know. So that was really frustrating with this particular set. They are single piece, so it's not like you have to worry about, assembling, or is it difficult. But it does make it harder when you need to put your legs in different positions, and you can't, because of the fact that, it's a single piece. So overall, this was the most frustrating, because even with the official bases, I would still be annoyed trying to get them glued on. But I did want to point that out for completeness sake. So that is the spider drones. All right, now as our last bit, we're just going to take a quick look through the cards. If you've watched any of the other videos, we're not going to look at every single one and analyze which ones are better. We're just going to kind of give a quick overview, look at the mission that's included, and just kind of get an idea of what else you're going to get in the package. Now, first off, you do get your custom mission. In this case, the setup is the Generation Red team seeking to prove their worth is the attacker, and the other team is the defender. So if you're going to play Generation Red, you're going to play your mission. You want to prove that you're just as tough as the other gang, so you've got to attack. The defender is going to get some extra Eurobucks in order to build their team and set it up within the central circle. And the attacker gets to set their team up anywhere else on the board outside of the circle. To win, the attacking Generation Red team uses the loot goods or loot gear action on body tokens dropped. All 3 characters that were secretly written down, they reveal what was written and immediately win. So basically, you're trying to take out specific targets in your opponent. And the defender is going to take out half of the Generation Red team. If the attacking Generation Red team wins, they win the campaign. If the defender wins, they promote up to 2 characters. All models, attacker and defender, may carry loot from this game to their next game. So that is your scenario. For your objective deck, let's focus a little bit. So, discard 3 or more loot cards. End the game with 2 or more gonks in your opponent's control zone. Successfully use the loot goods action a total of 3 or more times this game on body tokens dropped by enemy models. Wow, so win a game. So, obviously, objectives focused around, your faction and things like that. So that is the objective cards. We have Apex with regular and 1 upgraded version. Blades with a regular and an upgraded version. High Stick with 2 upgraded versions. Obviously, the dice just keep getting better. Izzy with an upgraded version. Tetra with an upgraded version. And Wheelie with an upgraded version. As far as the equipment and loot cards, okay, I like this. Inconspicuous hoodie for, wow, you get 3 of them. Rattle cans, so you get paint cans. Molotov cocktails. Scavenge parts. Pistols, blades, improvised armor. Pretty general for weapons. A grapple gun. Hydraulic limbs. Biotoxin shiv, rocket skates, pain editor, salvaged mortar, neural uplink, salvaged machine gun, and power gloves. So again, gear that just kind of implies stuff that kids would be able to get their hands on. Loot cards. So these are all pretty similar across the sets. In my understanding, I have not gone through and memorized all of them. And then we've got 6 cyber programs. So Crab Drone Control, Stomp.exe, Hyper Empathy, Enhanced Reflexes, Advanced Shroud, and Junk.exe. So that is everything you get out of the Generation Red starter set. I'll be honest, I'm going to paint it up. I'm not sure how often I will bring kids to the table. Just not necessarily what I want to play, but they've got some fun models in here. I like the fact that the equipment, the objectives, do generally, gear towards like I said, kids, things that kids would be able to get their hands on. I like that the models evoke just these kind of, preteen inner city gangs. They're too small to join the adults, but they're, like in a place like Night City, they're gonna kind of be left to their own devices. And how many times have we heard that story? So I think it's a very fun, it's a very relevant faction to put in the game, even if as grown-ups maybe we look at it and be like, really? I don't know. But overall, I think they did well with this, and I am excited to at least get them painted up. So that is Generation Red. What did you think? Do you have the faction? How do they play? Let me know down in the comments. Obviously, I'm still working on getting these all together, and I'd love to hear more from you. So make sure you do that. Also, don't forget there are affiliate links down below to Amazon, DriveThruRPG. If you feel like helping out the channel, we would absolutely appreciate it. But other than that, thank you so much for your time, and we'll talk to you next time.